Good day, everyone. I want to begin by saying that if you have ever felt like your life carries a purpose greater than what you can currently see, then this message is for you. Many people are gifted with incredible potential, beautiful dreams, and a calling to make a difference, yet they never reach the life they were meant to live. Not because they lacked talent, intelligence, or opportunity, but because invisible battles slowly weakened their spirit. The greatest enemies are often not the ones standing in front of us, but the ones quietly growing within us. Today, I invite you to examine your own heart, because victory begins the moment we recognize what has been holding us back. Every person has moments when they feel chosen for something greater. You may not stand on a stage, lead a company, or become famous, but you know deep inside that your life has meaning. The tragedy is that many people lose their purpose, not in one dramatic moment, but through small compromises made day after day. Great dreams rarely die overnight. They fade through neglect, fear, distraction, and habits that slowly steal passion until a person settles for less than they were capable of becoming. The first destructive force is pride. Pride whispers that you already know enough, that you don't need advice, correction, or growth. It blinds people to their weaknesses while magnifying the faults of others. The strongest people are not those who think they are perfect, but those who remain humble enough to keep learning. Humility opens doors that talent alone never can. The moment you believe there is nothing left to improve, you stop growing. And when growth stops, purpose begins to fade. The second force is fear. Fear has buried more dreams than failure ever has. It tells you that you are too late, too young, too old, too inexperienced, or simply not good enough. It paints imaginary disasters until you convince yourself not to even try. But courage does not mean the absence of fear. Courage means taking one more step despite shaking knees and an uncertain future. Every successful person has faced fear, but they refused to let fear become their master. The third destructive spirit is distraction. We live in a world full of endless notifications, entertainment, and constant noise. Hours disappear scrolling through screens, while precious opportunities quietly pass by. Distraction doesn't always appear as something evil. Sometimes it comes disguised as comfort, convenience, or harmless pleasure. Yet every minute spent on things that do not matter is a minute taken away from building the life you truly desire. Focus is one of the greatest forms of discipline, because where your attention goes, your future follows. The fourth enemy is bitterness. Pain is unavoidable, but bitterness is a choice. Many people have been hurt by betrayal, rejection, unfair treatment, or broken relationships. Instead of healing, they carry those wounds for years until anger becomes part of their identity. Bitterness traps you in yesterday, while your future waits ahead. Forgiveness does not excuse what happened, but it frees your heart from carrying a weight that was never meant to stay there. A peaceful heart has far more strength than a resentful one. The fifth destructive force is laziness disguised as waiting for the perfect moment. Many people say they are preparing, but in reality, they are postponing action. They wait for perfect conditions, perfect confidence, or perfect timing. The truth is that perfect moments rarely exist. Progress belongs to those who start before they feel completely ready. Small, consistent actions repeated every day will always outperform grand plans that never leave the imagination. Success is built through faithful effort, not endless excuses. The sixth enemy is doubt. Doubt convinces you that your voice doesn't matter, your contribution is too small, and your dreams are unrealistic. It causes people to compare themselves with others until they forget the unique gifts they already possess. Comparison steals joy because it forces you to measure your journey against someone else's chapter. Remember that every giant achievement once looked like a tiny, impossible dream. Believe in the seed within you, even before the world notices the tree it will become. The seventh and perhaps most dangerous force is giving up. Many people quit just before their breakthrough. They mistake delay for denial and struggle for defeat. Life will test your patience, your faith, and your endurance. There will be seasons when nothing seems to change despite your hard work. Those are the moments that separate ordinary people from extraordinary ones. Persistence is powerful because every challenge you overcome strengthens your character more than comfort ever could. Never allow temporary setbacks to convince you that your permanent destiny has disappeared. Think about your own life for a moment. How many dreams have been delayed by fear? How many relationships have been damaged by pride? How much time has been stolen by distraction? How much energy has been wasted carrying bitterness? How many opportunities have been missed because of doubt or procrastination? These questions are not meant to fill you with guilt. They are meant to awaken hope. The moment you become aware of what is holding you back is the moment you gain the power to change it. The beautiful truth is that no matter where you are today, your story is still being written. Your past may explain your pain, but it does not have to determine your future. Every sunrise is a reminder that new beginnings are possible. Every mistake can become a lesson. Every failure can become preparation. Every disappointment can become the foundation of greater wisdom. Your greatest victories may still be waiting just beyond the challenges you are facing today. Choose humility over pride. Choose courage over fear. Choose focus over distraction. Choose forgiveness over bitterness. Choose discipline over laziness. Choose faith over doubt. Above all, choose perseverance over giving up. These choices may seem small in a single day, but over months and years, they shape an extraordinary life. The person you become tomorrow is determined by the decisions you make today. As you leave with these thoughts, remember that greatness is not reserved for a lucky few. It belongs to those who refuse to surrender their purpose. Stand up after every fall. Learn after every mistake. Keep moving when the road becomes difficult. Your life has value. Your dreams matter. Your struggles are preparing you, not destroying you. The strength you need is already growing within you. Keep believing, keep fighting, keep improving, and never allow anything to steal the incredible future that is waiting for you. There is a silent enemy that rarely announces itself. It doesn't arrive with loud warnings or dramatic signs. Instead, it grows quietly, almost unnoticed, until it begins to reshape the way a person thinks, speaks, and lives. At first, it feels like confidence. It feels like strength. It even feels like success. But over time, it slowly transforms into something far more dangerous. It convinces people that they already know enough, that they no longer need guidance, correction, or growth. This invisible force has caused countless gifted people to fall, not because they lacked ability, but because they stopped believing they had anything left to learn. Think about the moments when life begins to go well. You achieve something you once prayed for. You receive recognition from others. People start complimenting your talents, your intelligence, or your accomplishments. Success itself is not the problem. The real danger begins when success changes your attitude instead of simply changing your circumstances. Instead of remaining grateful, you begin believing that everything you have is entirely because of your own greatness. You stop listening. You stop asking questions. You stop improving because deep inside you believe you have already arrived. This is one of the greatest traps that can capture any person. The higher someone climbs, the more they need humility to keep them grounded. A tree loaded with fruit bends low, but an empty tree stands stiff and proud. The same is true in life. People with genuine wisdom often speak less, listen more, and remain teachable. They understand that no matter how much they know, there is always another lesson waiting. Those who believe they have mastered everything are often the ones who begin making the biggest mistakes. Many people mistake pride for confidence, but the two are completely different. Confidence says, "I can do this because I have prepared and I am willing to keep learning." Pride says, "I already know everything and nobody can teach me." Confidence encourages growth, while pride resists it. Confidence inspires others, while pride pushes people away. One builds relationships, and the other quietly destroys them. Have you ever met someone who refuses to admit they are wrong? No matter how clear the evidence is, they always find a way to defend themselves. They interrupt conversations instead of listening. They reject advice before even considering it. They believe every criticism is an attack rather than an opportunity to improve. Over time, people stop trying to help them because they know their words will never be accepted. Eventually, that person becomes isolated, surrounded only by people who tell them what they want to hear instead of what they need to hear. Life has a way of testing our character through success more than through failure. During difficult seasons, people often pray, seek wisdom, and remain humble because they know they need help. But once they begin succeeding, they sometimes forget the very attitude that helped them rise. They stop seeking guidance because they believe they have become the source of their own success. Ironically, the qualities that brought them to the top slowly disappear, making the fall almost inevitable. Pride also creates comparison. Instead of celebrating the achievements of others, a proud heart feels threatened by them. Every success someone else experiences feels like a personal loss. Rather than being inspired, they become jealous. Rather than encouraging others, they secretly hope others fail so they can continue feeling superior. This mindset poisons friendships, families, workplaces, and communities because competition replaces compassion. One of the saddest effects of pride is that it blinds people to their own weaknesses. It becomes easy to notice every flaw in someone else while completely ignoring the problems within ourselves. We become experts at pointing fingers, but beginners at looking in the mirror. Growth begins the moment we honestly recognize where we need to improve. Without self-awareness, change becomes impossible. History is filled with talented individuals who lost everything because pride convinced them they were untouchable. They ignored warnings. They rejected wise counsel. They believed the rules applied to everyone except themselves. For a while, everything seemed fine. Then one poor decision led to another, until everything they had built came crashing down. Talent opened the door, but pride closed it. Ability created opportunities, but arrogance destroyed them. On the other hand, some of the greatest people the world has ever admired shared one remarkable quality. No matter how successful they became, they never stopped learning. They asked questions. They welcomed feedback. They surrounded themselves with people who challenged them instead of simply praising them. They understood that growth has no finish line. Every new experience became another classroom, and every mistake became another teacher. Imagine carrying a cup that is already full. No matter how much fresh water someone tries to pour into it, nothing more can fit inside. It simply spills over the edges. But an empty cup is always ready to receive something new. The same principle applies to the human heart. When we believe we already know everything, there is no room left for wisdom. When we remain humble, every conversation, every challenge, and every experience becomes an opportunity to become stronger. Humility does not mean thinking less of yourself. It means thinking of yourself honestly. It means recognizing your strengths while also admitting your weaknesses. It means having enough confidence to celebrate your victories without believing they make you better than anyone else. Real humility gives credit where it belongs, expresses gratitude, and never forgets that every achievement is built upon countless lessons, sacrifices, and the support of others. Perhaps the greatest sign of humility is the willingness to apologize. Pride says, protect your image at all costs. Humility says, protect your character, even if it means admitting you were wrong. Saying, I made a mistake, does not make you weak. It demonstrates maturity. It shows that your desire to grow is greater than your desire to appear perfect. Ironically, people respect honesty far more than they respect someone pretending to have no flaws. If you want to protect your future, make it a habit to stay teachable. Read more than you think you need to. Listen carefully, even to people younger than you or less experienced than you. Accept correction without becoming defensive. Ask questions without feeling embarrassed. The wisest people are not those who have all the answers, but those who never stop searching for better ones. At the end of the day, every person faces a choice. You can allow success to make you proud, or you can allow it to make you grateful. You can believe you have nothing left to learn, or you can wake up every morning with the attitude of a lifelong student. One path leads to slow destruction, while the other leads to continuous growth. The strongest people are not those who never fall. They are those who remain humble enough to learn before life is forced to teach them the hard way. True greatness is not measured by how high you rise, but by how grounded you remain when the world begins to applaud you. There is a voice that has stopped more dreams than failure ever could. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It quietly enters the mind and begins asking questions that seem reasonable at first. What if you fail? What if people laugh at you? What if you're not good enough? What if you lose everything? The longer you listen to these questions, the more powerful they become. Before long, they no longer sound like possibilities, they begin to sound like facts. This is how fear works. It doesn't need chains to imprison you, it only needs your agreement. The moment you believe its lies, you begin building walls around your own potential. Fear has an incredible ability to make small obstacles appear like impossible mountains. A single setback becomes proof that success is out of reach. One criticism feels like confirmation that you should quit. One rejection convinces you that you were never meant to try in the first place. Yet the reality is that every person who has ever accomplished something meaningful has walked through fear. The difference is not that they were fearless. The difference is that they refused to let fear make their decisions. Many people imagine fear as something dramatic, but most of the time it wears an ordinary face. It appears when someone has an opportunity to start a business, but keeps delaying because the timing never feels perfect. It appears when someone wants to share their ideas, but stays silent because they worry about being judged. It appears when a person remains trapped in an unhealthy situation because the unknown feels more frightening than the familiar. Fear often disguises itself as caution, convincing us that staying where we are is the safest choice. But sometimes the greatest risk is refusing to move at all. Think about how many dreams never leave the imagination. How many books are never written because someone doubts their ability? How many songs are never sung because someone fears criticism? How many businesses are never started because failure seems too painful? How many relationships never begin because rejection feels unbearable? The world is full of unrealized potential, not because people lacked talent, but because fear convinced them that taking the first step was too dangerous. One of fear's greatest weapons is making us believe we must have complete certainty before taking action. We tell ourselves that once we feel confident enough, then we will begin. Once we have enough money, enough knowledge, enough experience, enough support, then we will finally move forward. But confidence is rarely the starting point. Confidence is usually the result of taking action repeatedly despite uncertainty. Waiting to feel fearless before beginning often means waiting forever. Fear also feeds on comparison. We look at people who seem successful and assume they never struggled with insecurity. We see the polished result, but not the difficult journey behind it. We compare our first chapter to someone else's 20th chapter and conclude that we can never measure up. What we forget is that every expert was once a beginner. Every confident speaker once trembled before an audience. Every accomplished leader once questioned whether they were capable. Growth is not about being instantly great. It is about refusing to stop learning. Another dangerous aspect of fear is that it creates imaginary futures that feel more real than the present. The mind begins playing endless worst-case scenarios. You imagine everything going wrong before anything has even happened. You picture embarrassment before you've even tried. You expect failure before you've taken the first step. These imagined disasters steal today's courage while offering nothing in return. Most of the things we fear never actually happen, yet we allow them to control our lives as though they already have. Fear doesn't only affect dreams, it affects relationships as well. Some people are afraid to forgive because they fear being hurt again. Others are afraid to trust because someone once betrayed them. Some refuse to express love because they fear rejection. As a result, fear builds emotional walls that keep pain out, but also keep joy from entering. A heart protected by fear eventually becomes isolated, longing for connection while refusing to risk vulnerability. The tragic thing about fear is that it often disguises itself as wisdom. It tells you that you're simply being realistic. It encourages endless planning without meaningful action. It praises hesitation as responsibility while quietly stealing your future. There is certainly value in preparation, but preparation without action eventually becomes procrastination. At some point, every meaningful journey requires a step into the unknown. Life has never offered guarantees to anyone. There is no promise that every attempt will succeed, every opportunity will work out, or every dream will unfold exactly as planned. But there is one certainty. If you never try, you remove every possibility of success before the journey even begins. Fear guarantees failure by preventing action altogether. Failure from trying can teach you, strengthen you, and prepare you for future victories. Failure from never trying leaves only regret. Many people reach the later years of their lives carrying a heavy burden. Surprisingly, it is not the burden of mistakes they made, it is the burden of chances they never took. They remember the conversations they never had, the dreams they never pursued, the opportunities they allowed to pass because they kept waiting for courage to arrive. Regret grows strongest where fear once lived. It whispers, "What if you had just believed in yourself?" Courage does not eliminate fear. Courage simply decides that something else is more important than fear. A firefighter feels fear, but still runs toward danger to save lives. A parent feels fear, but sacrifices for their children anyway. An entrepreneur feels fear, but launches the business. A student feels fear, but walks into the examination room. A speaker feels fear, but steps onto the stage. Their hearts may race, their hands may shake, and uncertainty may remain, but they move forward despite it. Every act of courage weakens fear's influence. Each time you do something difficult, your confidence grows a little stronger. Every challenge you overcome becomes evidence that you are more capable than fear claimed you were. Eventually, you begin looking back at obstacles that once seemed impossible and realize they were simply stepping stones, preparing you for something greater. The truth is that your potential has never been determined by the absence of fear. It has always been determined by your willingness to move despite it. The road toward purpose is rarely comfortable. It demands faith when answers are unclear, perseverance when progress is slow, and courage when the future cannot be fully seen. Yet every meaningful achievement lies on the other side of the fears that once seemed impossible to overcome. If fear has been holding you back, remember this: you do not have to conquer your entire future today. You only need enough courage for the next step. One decision, one conversation, one application, one attempt, one act of faith. Great journeys are built from small moments of bravery repeated over time. Do not allow imagined failures to rob you of real opportunities. The life you hope for is not waiting for a fearless person. It is waiting for a courageous one. Fear may knock on the door of your mind every day, but you have the power to decide whether it will remain a visitor or become the master of your life. There is an enemy that rarely looks dangerous. It doesn't usually come dressed as failure, temptation, or obvious destruction. Instead, it appears as harmless entertainment, endless scrolling, unnecessary busyness, and countless little interruptions that seem insignificant on their own. Yet over weeks, months, and years, these small distractions quietly steal something far more valuable than money. They steal your time, your focus, and ultimately, your purpose. One of the greatest tragedies in life is not that people are unable to achieve greatness, but that they become so distracted that they never fully discover what they were capable of becoming. Distraction has become one of the most powerful forces of the modern world because it doesn't ask you to give up your dreams. It simply encourages you to postpone them. It whispers, "You can start tomorrow. Just relax for a little while." 1 hour becomes 1 evening becomes 1 week. Before you realize it, months have passed, and the dreams that once filled your heart have been buried beneath routines that produce no lasting value. The frightening part is that distraction often feels comfortable, which makes it difficult to recognize as an enemy. Every single day, people wake up with good intentions. They promise themselves they will read, learn, exercise, build their business, strengthen their relationships, or work toward their goals. But before they begin, one notification appears, then another. They check one message, watch one short video, scroll through social media for just 5 minutes, and suddenly an entire hour has disappeared. They repeat this pattern day after day until they begin wondering why their lives are not changing. The answer is often simple. Great futures are not usually stolen in one dramatic moment. They are stolen one distraction at a time. The greatest resource you possess is not your talent or your intelligence. It is your attention. Whatever receives your attention eventually shapes your life. If your attention is constantly scattered across meaningless things, your energy becomes scattered as well. It becomes almost impossible to develop deep skills, meaningful relationships, or lasting accomplishments, because every important task requires sustained focus. A distracted mind struggles to create anything extraordinary. Many people today wear busyness like a badge of honor. They are always occupied, always responding, always rushing from one activity to another. Yet being busy is not the same as being productive. Someone can spend 12 hours occupied with tasks that bring them no closer to their purpose. Another person can spend 2 focused hours working on what truly matters and accomplish far more. Activity without direction creates exhaustion, while focused effort creates progress. Distraction also affects the way we think. Our minds become so accustomed to constant stimulation that silence begins to feel uncomfortable. Instead of sitting quietly to reflect, pray, read, or think deeply, many people instinctively reach for their phones whenever there is a spare moment. Waiting in line, riding in a car, or sitting alone for a few minutes becomes an opportunity to consume more content. Yet some of life's greatest ideas are born in moments of stillness. When the mind is constantly filled with noise, there is little room left for wisdom. One of the cleverest tricks of distraction is that it convinces us we are learning when we are actually avoiding action. We watch motivational videos, read inspiring quotes, and collect endless advice, but never apply any of it. We feel productive because we are consuming information, yet our lives remain unchanged, because knowledge without action produces no transformation. It is possible to know hundreds of inspiring ideas while living none of them. Real growth begins when information becomes action. Distraction doesn't only steal dreams, it steals relationships as well. Families sit together while each person stares at a separate screen. Friends meet but spend more time checking notifications than having meaningful conversations. Parents miss precious moments with their children because work or entertainment constantly demands attention. Husbands and wives slowly grow apart because their focus has shifted elsewhere. The greatest gift you can give another person is your full attention. Yet it has become one of the rarest gifts in today's world. Imagine trying to light a fire using sunlight. If sunlight is spread across a wide area, it feels warm but produces little effect. However, when a magnifying glass focuses those same rays into one small point, they become powerful enough to ignite a flame. Human attention works the same way. A scattered mind produces scattered results. A focused mind creates extraordinary impact. Great achievements are rarely the result of doing many things at once. They are usually the result of doing one important thing with complete dedication. Many people assume they lack discipline, but in reality, they simply lack boundaries. They allow every message, every trend, every opinion, and every interruption to dictate their day. Instead of controlling their attention, they surrender it to whatever demands it the loudest. Over time, this creates a life driven by reaction rather than intention. Days become filled with responding instead of creating, consuming instead of contributing, surviving instead of growing. The sad reality is that distraction often attacks those with the greatest potential. A person who carries a meaningful purpose is rarely tempted to quit immediately. Instead, they become so busy with lesser things that they slowly forget the greater mission placed before them. They convince themselves they will return to it someday, but someday has a way of turning into never. Dreams don't always die because of opposition. Sometimes they simply fade because they were neglected for too long. If you observe the lives of people who consistently accomplish meaningful goals, you will notice something remarkable. They fiercely protect their focus. They understand that saying yes to everything means saying no to what matters most. They are willing to disconnect from unnecessary noise so they can connect with their purpose. They schedule time for learning, working, resting, and relationships because they know that if they do not intentionally direct their attention, someone else will gladly direct it for them. Every distraction carries a hidden cost. Watching one unnecessary video may seem harmless, but repeated hundreds of times, it becomes days and weeks of lost opportunity. Every hour wasted could have been invested in learning a skill, strengthening a relationship, improving your health, or moving one step closer to your dreams. Time is the one resource that cannot be recovered. Money can be earned again. Opportunities may return. Energy can be restored through rest, but once a moment passes, it is gone forever. The beautiful truth is that you do not need to transform your entire life overnight. You simply need to begin reclaiming your attention. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Spend time in silence each day. Read more than you scroll. Finish what you start before chasing something new. Give the people you love your undivided attention. Focus on the few things that truly matter instead of the many things that merely entertain you. Small choices repeated consistently will gradually reshape your future. Remember that your purpose deserves more than leftover time and divided attention. It deserves your best energy, your deepest focus, and your greatest commitment. The world is full of noise, competing for your eyes, your ears, and your mind. But not everything that captures your attention deserves your life. Protect your focus as one of your greatest treasures. Refuse to let meaningless distractions steal the extraordinary future that is waiting for you. The difference between an average life and an exceptional one is often not intelligence, luck, or talent. It is the daily decision to remain focused on what truly matters when everything else is trying to pull you away. There is a battle that takes place long before anyone else can see it. It happens in the quiet moments of the mind, where thoughts slowly shape beliefs, and beliefs eventually shape destiny. One of the most destructive forces in that battle is doubt. It rarely arrives all at once. Instead, it slips into your thinking one question at a time. Am I really capable? What if I'm not enough? Maybe someone else could do this better. These questions may seem harmless at first, but if they are repeated often enough, they become the voice that controls your decisions. The greatest danger of doubt is not that it asks questions. It is that it convinces you that your fears are the truth. Every person, no matter how gifted or successful, has experienced moments of uncertainty. The difference between those who fulfill their purpose and those who abandon it is not the absence of doubt. It is how they respond when doubt comes knocking. Some people allow it to become the loudest voice in their lives, while others acknowledge its presence but refuse to obey it. Your future is shaped not by every thought that enters your mind, but by the thoughts you choose to believe. Doubt has a way of making you forget everything you have already overcome. It causes you to focus on your weaknesses while ignoring your strengths. It reminds you of every mistake but never mentions your victories. It magnifies every failure until it appears larger than your potential. Over time, you begin to see yourself through the lens of your disappointments instead of your possibilities. You stop recognizing the progress you've made because doubt keeps convincing you that you are still standing at the beginning. One of doubt's favorite tools is comparison. It encourages you to look at someone else's success and conclude that you could never achieve something similar. You see their confidence, their achievements, or their recognition, but you rarely see the years of struggle, rejection, discipline, and sacrifice that came before. You compare your private battles with someone else's public victories. This comparison is unfair because every person's journey unfolds at a different pace. The moment you begin measuring your worth against someone else's path, you lose sight of the unique purpose that belongs only to you. Many dreams have been abandoned not because people lacked talent, but because they underestimated themselves. They waited for someone else to tell them they were good enough before believing it. They searched for constant approval, hoping it would silence the uncertainty inside them. But external praise can never permanently remove internal doubt. If your confidence depends entirely on the opinions of others, it will rise and fall with every compliment and every criticism. Lasting confidence is built by knowing your values, developing your abilities, and continuing to move forward even when applause is absent. Doubt also convinces people that mistakes define them. They fail once and begin believing they are failures. They make one poor decision and conclude they are incapable of making wise ones. But there is a powerful difference between failing and being a failure. Failure is an event. It is something that happens. It is not your identity. Every successful person has experienced disappointment, setbacks, and moments when things did not go according to plan. What separated them from others was their refusal to allow temporary defeat to become a permanent label. There are many people who spend years preparing for opportunities they never pursue. They earn qualifications, gather resources, and make detailed plans. Yet when the moment to act arrives, doubt whispers that they are still not ready. They keep waiting for a level of confidence that never comes. Because confidence is not something you discover before taking action. It is something you build by acting consistently despite uncertainty. Every courageous step weakens the power of doubt and strengthens the belief that you are capable of more than you imagined. Think about how many remarkable ideas never become reality because someone questioned themselves at the wrong moment. A writer deletes their first chapter because they think no one will read it. An artist hides their work because they assume it isn't good enough. A leader remains silent because they believe their voice doesn't matter. A student refuses to apply for an opportunity because they are convinced someone else deserves it more. In each case, doubt becomes a prison, built not from locked doors, but from limiting beliefs. Another dangerous effect of doubt is that it steals joy from the present. Instead of appreciating how far you have come, you become obsessed with what you still lack. Instead of celebrating small victories, you dismiss them because they do not seem impressive enough. Instead of recognizing daily progress, you constantly focus on the distance that remains. This mindset creates endless dissatisfaction because no achievement ever feels sufficient when doubt controls your perspective. The truth is that every meaningful journey includes moments of uncertainty. Even the strongest people have faced seasons when they questioned themselves. They wondered whether they were making the right decisions. They wondered whether their efforts would ever produce results. Yet they continued moving forward because they understood something important. Feelings are temporary, but commitment must remain constant. There will be days when you feel confident and days when you do not. If you allow your emotions alone to determine your actions, your progress will always be inconsistent. One of the most effective ways to overcome doubt is to remember your previous victories. Reflect on the obstacles you once believed were impossible but eventually overcame. Think about the challenges that once frightened you, but now seem small because you grew through them. Your past is filled with evidence that you are stronger than you sometimes believe. The same determination that carried you through earlier struggles can carry you through the challenges you face today. It is also important to understand that growth rarely feels comfortable. Whenever you attempt something new, uncertainty naturally appears because you are entering unfamiliar territory. That uncomfortable feeling is not necessarily a sign that you are on the wrong path. Often it is proof that you are growing. Muscles become stronger by resisting greater weight. Minds become wiser by solving more difficult problems. Character becomes stronger by facing greater challenges. Progress often begins where comfort ends. Surrounding yourself with encouraging people also makes a tremendous difference. The voices you listen to every day shape the way you see yourself. If you constantly hear criticism, negativity, and discouragement, doubt grows stronger. But if you surround yourself with people who challenge you, believe in your potential, and encourage your growth, your perspective begins to change. Wise encouragement does not ignore your weaknesses. It reminds you that your weaknesses do not have the final word. At the end of the day, doubt will probably visit every life. The question is not whether it will appear, but whether you will give it authority over your future. You cannot always control the thoughts that enter your mind, but you can choose which ones deserve your attention. You can choose to believe that your past mistakes do not define you. You can choose to believe that every small step matters. You can choose to believe that your purpose is greater than your fear, and your potential is greater than your uncertainty. Never allow doubt to convince you that your story is over before it has truly begun. You were not created to spend your life hiding behind insecurity or waiting for perfect confidence. Move forward with the abilities you have today. Continue learning, continue growing, and trust that each step will make you stronger than the last. The greatest achievements in history were not accomplished by people who never questioned themselves. They were accomplished by ordinary people who refused to let doubt have the final say. Your future is too valuable to surrender to the quiet voice that keeps insisting you are not enough. Believe that you can grow, believe that you can learn, and above all, believe that your greatest days are still ahead of you. There comes a moment in every person's journey when the excitement fades. The progress seems invisible, and the road ahead feels longer than ever before. It is in this moment that the greatest battle begins. It is not a battle against other people, difficult circumstances, or limited resources. It is a battle against the desire to give up. This quiet temptation has ended more dreams than lack of talent ever could. Many people do not fail because they are incapable. They fail because they stop too soon. They mistake a temporary season of struggle for a permanent condition and walk away just before the breakthrough they had been praying for. Giving up rarely happens in a single dramatic decision. It usually begins with small thoughts that slowly weaken determination. A person starts saying, "Maybe this isn't meant for me." Then it becomes, "What's the point of trying anymore?" Eventually, those thoughts grow into actions. The daily effort disappears. The discipline fades. The dream that once filled their heart becomes a distant memory. The tragedy is that many people never realize how close they were to success. They quit while standing only a few steps away from the opportunity they had spent years preparing for. Life has a way of testing commitment before revealing rewards. Every meaningful goal demands patience. A farmer does not plant seeds in the morning and expect a harvest by evening. An athlete does not become a champion after one day of training. A musician does not master an instrument after a single lesson. Every worthwhile achievement is built through countless ordinary days of consistent effort. Yet, in a world that celebrates instant results, many people lose patience when progress seems slow. They forget that strong foundations are built beneath the surface, long before anyone notices what is growing above it. One of the greatest lies that discouragement tells is that your efforts are accomplishing nothing. You work hard day after day, but the results seem invisible. You continue learning, but you still feel inexperienced. You remain faithful to your responsibilities, yet recognition never comes. During these seasons, it becomes easy to believe that nothing is changing. But just because progress is hidden does not mean progress is absent. The strongest roots of a tree grow underground, where no one can see them. Without those hidden roots, the tree could never stand when storms arrive. In the same way, your unseen efforts are often preparing you for responsibilities that you are not yet able to imagine. Every person who has ever accomplished something extraordinary has faced moments when quitting seemed reasonable. They experienced rejection, criticism, disappointment, and failure. There were days when they questioned themselves, when doors remained closed, and when it appeared that all their hard work had been wasted. The difference was not that they avoided hardship. The difference was that they chose to continue, even when success was nowhere in sight. They understood that perseverance is not the absence of struggle. Perseverance is the decision to keep moving despite the struggle. Many people assume that successful individuals possess endless motivation, but motivation is unreliable. Some days you feel inspired, and other days you do not. If your progress depends only on motivation, your future will always rise and fall with your emotions. Discipline, however, continues even when motivation disappears. It wakes up early when comfort says sleep longer. It studies when entertainment seems more appealing. It practices when nobody is watching. It keeps promises even when feelings change. The people who reach remarkable destinations are usually those who learn to rely on discipline instead of temporary inspiration. Failure also plays an important role in this journey. Too often, people view failure as proof that they should stop. In reality, failure is often one of life's greatest teachers. Every mistake reveals something that success could never teach. Every setback develops wisdom, patience, and resilience. Imagine a child learning to walk. No one expects that child to succeed without falling. Every stumble is simply part of the learning process. Yet, as adults, we sometimes expect ourselves to succeed immediately. The first disappointment convinces us we are incapable. The truth is that falling does not disqualify you. Refusing to get back up is what truly limits your future. There will also be people who misunderstand your journey. Some may question your dreams because they cannot see what you see. Others may criticize your persistence because they have already abandoned their own ambitions. If you depend on constant approval from everyone around you, you will eventually lose direction. Not everyone will understand your purpose, and they do not have to. Your responsibility is not to convince every person that your dream matters. Your responsibility is to remain faithful to the work you have been called to do. Another challenge that causes many people to give up is comparing their timeline with someone else's. You watch others achieve success while your own progress feels painfully slow. You begin asking why life seems easier for everyone else. But comparison ignores countless details you cannot see. Every journey includes private battles, unseen sacrifices, and different seasons of preparation. Some flowers bloom in weeks. Others take years before revealing their beauty. The length of the preparation does not determine the value of the outcome. Your journey is unfolding according to lessons that are shaping your character along the way. One of the most powerful truths you can remember is that persistence changes you before it changes your circumstances. Long before your situation improves, your character becomes stronger. You develop patience where there was once frustration. You develop wisdom where there was once impulsiveness. You develop courage where there was once fear. Even if the destination takes longer than expected, the person you become during the journey is one of the greatest rewards of all. Success without character is fragile, but success built upon perseverance has the strength to endure. There are moments when taking one more step feels impossible. Your energy is low. Your confidence has been shaken. Your prayers seem unanswered. Your efforts appear unnoticed. During those moments, do not focus on climbing the entire mountain. Simply focus on taking the next step. One more day of discipline. One more conversation. One more application. One more chapter. One more attempt. Great victories are rarely achieved through one giant leap. They are built through thousands of small decisions to keep going when quitting seems easier. Imagine standing in a dark tunnel. After walking for a long time without seeing the exit, you may begin believing there is no light ahead. But the absence of visible light does not mean the exit does not exist. Sometimes the darkest part of the tunnel comes just before you step into daylight. Many people turn around because they assume the darkness will last forever. If they had continued a little longer, they would have discovered they were much closer to freedom than they realized. Your life will always include seasons of waiting, working, and wondering. Those seasons are not wasted. They are preparing you for responsibilities that require greater strength, deeper wisdom, and stronger character. Every obstacle you overcome increases your capacity to handle future opportunities. Every difficult season equips you with lessons that comfort could never provide. What feels like delay may actually be preparation for something far greater than you can currently understand. So when the voice of discouragement tells you to quit, remember why you started. Remember the dreams that once filled your heart with hope. Remember the obstacles you have already overcome. Remember the strength you discovered during previous battles. You have survived challenges that once seemed impossible, and that same resilience still lives within you today. Do not allow temporary pain to convince you that your purpose has disappeared. The people who change the world are not always the smartest, the richest, or the most talented. More often than not, They are simply the ones who refused to give up. They kept believing when belief was difficult. They kept working when progress was invisible. They kept standing when others walked away. Let that be your story as well. Stay faithful to your purpose. Remain committed during the difficult seasons, and keep taking one step after another. The breakthrough you are waiting for may be far closer than you think, and the future you dream about may depend on nothing more than your decision to keep going one more day.